Good evening and thanks for joining us. This is Times News. You're with me, Wonder Msisia. First headlines. Dodma. The Department of Disaster and Management Affairs, DODMA, has admitted that it approved plans for clusters despite having more than 50% of their funding channeled towards allowances. DODMA's Director of Response and Recovery, Moses Chimpepo, has however attributed the development to a mass of activities that centered on prevention awareness campaigns and training for health workers which needed allowances. This was disclosed when officials appeared before the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. Audrey Kapalamula reports.
Chimpepo says at that particular time, movement of officers was inevitable and training on health workers on how to handle the pandemic could not be avoided. Chimpepo has told the committee that local councils and the Ministry of Health were the ones affected because the latter had to train all the health workers on the pandemic, which attracted allowances.
When we were responding to COVID, not many people knew about COVID-19. Not all our health workers were oriented on COVID-19, and we needed to undertake several training programs preparing the health workers. We needed to undertake several activities in the communities in terms of public awareness and other things.
Out of the 6.2 billion kwacha funds for cluster operations, 5 billion kwacha has been used, leaving a balance of 1.1 billion kwacha. Chimpepo, who is also acting controlling officer for DODMA, has told the committee that funds were transferred directly from the treasury to clusters, a development that brought confusion on who to follow up on monthly reports. PAC chairperson Shadrack Namalomba says under the law, when the disaster has been declared by the state president, it is the responsibility of DODMA to manage the funds, not treasury. On the allowances, Namalomba says DODMA lacked oversight on the plans that cluster presented.
When a recipient or a cluster submits a budget and a plan, the task force, or in this case, the controlling ministry like DODMA, should have critiqued, should have directed to say, okay, allowance says you are going to spend so much.
The committee will also engage the department to respond to the Ombudsman Martha Chizuma's report in the near future.
President Lazarus Chakwera has ratified the African Union Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the rights of older persons in Africa. As Monday Pondani reports, Chakwera signed the protocol on Monday, April 12, 2021.
By signing the protocol, President Chakwera becomes the third African president to ratify the protocol as a sign of commitment to protecting and upholding rights of older persons. Some of the specific rights covered under the protocol include access to justice, equal protection before the law, right to make decisions, and protection against discrimination in employment, among others. The protocol was concluded and adopted on January 31st in 2016 by the 26th Ordinary Session of Assembly in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and left to member states to sign, ratify, and accede. The protocol on older persons comprehensively provides for the recognition and protection of the rights of older persons. Meanwhile, the Malawi Network for Older Persons Organizations, MANEPO, through its executive director, Andrew Kavala, has hailed the president's move, saying it is reflective of the Tonse philosophy.
As an institution, we are quite very excited. You know, this protocol was approved by heads of states and governments in 2016. And as you are aware, for a protocol to be enforced, the protocol, but since 2016 up to the time they were shown the exit door from government, that was not done.
Records indicate that Malawi has slightly over 1 million older persons.
Mwapata Institute and Civil Society Agriculture Network, CISANET, have agreed to work together to towards provision of evidence-based agricultural solutions in the country. The two institutions signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) to engage in research and policy making aimed at contributing to the Agenda 2063. Mwapata Executive Director William Chadza says use of empirical evidence would help in making the right decisions and allocating required resources, hence increasing productivity.
We believe that signing a Memorandum of Understanding with the CISANET is going to be very important because we are going to provide them with the empirical evidence which they can use for their advocacy work, which they use in terms of engaging and also influencing various decisions in the agriculture sector. So research is very important.
And CISANET National Director Pamela Gwali said MOU will help in enhancing coordination among CSOs as well as making evidence-based reforms in the agriculture sector.
So the partnership will allow us to use the research, evidence or findings that are generated out of Mwapata's work. Additionally, because we are the ones that are on the ground, we are the ones that are working with district networks, community-based organizations, but also local CSOs. So we are strategically positioned to understand better the challenges that Malawians, especially farmers and other agricultural key players, are facing at the grassroots.
Police in Blantyre have launched a program called Youth Involvement in Crime Prevention. This is in a bid to beef up efforts in fighting crime in the city. Thomas Kachere has more in this report.
Station Officer for Soji Police, Bright Sanudi, said the initiative, which will involve the youth within their jurisdiction, will enable them to achieve a crime-free society. Sanudi said young people need to be involved in security matters because they are the same.
Political rallies, most of the youth are involved. You go to things like mob justices, people involved are the youth. So this activity is more important for the youth to know where to be involved or where not to be involved.
Director of Young Minds Vision, Trace Kanyungolo, said the launch came at the right time so that the youth are involved on matters of security in their localities.
It's high time the youth have to be used in matters of development, because reducing crime is a matter of development in a society. We have seen, all of us, you can bear with me that most of the times youth are used wrongly. You can see youth being used in demonstrations, violence and whatever. And the moment that youth have been called to be together here and discuss issues of crime, it is a very important element in a society.
Commenting on the issue, one of the girls, Grace Makina, said she is happy to be working with the police in crime prevention and that will assist them to open up in reporting crime.
This launch, it has helped me a lot because I have known some things that I didn't know before I came here. Yeah, like I didn't know that we can work with the police as youths.
It is expected that the launching of the initiative by the police will help to maintain peace in a society.
Over 3 months after the registrar of political parties notified or registered political parties in the country to re-register their parties by June 30 this year, in accordance with the Political Parties Act, there is slow progress. The Registrar General, who is also the caretaker registrar of political parties, Chikumbuso Namero, said the date will not change as parties were given ample time to plan for the process and those which will not oblige will be deregistered. Feston Malegezo has the full story.
The Registrar of Political Parties says his office already intends to remind the parties of the impending deadline and also to take advantage of the remaining months. He says with the coming in of the second wave of COVID-19 in the country, they deliberately provided half a year for the parties to comply with the Act. He says the general impression is that the inquiries that the parties are getting from his office signal willingness from the side of the parties in compliance with the Act. Suffice to say, Namero says they expect the parties to comply with the Act else they will be deregistered. With the act in place, the parties are supposed to declare their sources of income, submit financial reports, and disclose names of their donors. Further, the registration requires political parties to provide proof that they have at least 100 members in each of the country's administrative districts. United Democratic Front Secretary General Kandi Padambo says collection of signatures from districts has been one of the cumbersome aspects. Padambo says they have managed to collect the required signatures from all the districts in the northern and central regions, and that they are remaining with few districts in the southern region. In his reaction, UTM Publicity Secretary Frank Menifumbo says they are almost done with the process, and what remains are a few administrative processes. The notice by the Registrar of Political Parties means political parties that were registered before former President Peter Mutharika assented to the act have to re-register before they are allowed to operate in the country. Earlier, political commentators said the registration exercise would bring sanity in how political parties are run in the country. Malawi has over 60 political parties.
Now, as Muslims in the country observe Ramadan, the Muslim Association of Malawi and the Kadria Muslim Association of Malawi have separately asked the Muslims to dedicate the month to prayer against COVID-19 pandemic. This is the second time that the month of Ramadan is observed in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Patience Runda has more in this report.
Muslim Association of Malawi spokesperson Sheikh Dinara Chabuliga says every person has been affected by the virus, which has claimed a lot of lives.
In this month of Ramadan, we would like to take an advantage to pray to God that He must take out this problem of the coronavirus.
Kadlia Muslim Association of Malawi Publicity Secretary Sheikh Jafar Kawinga urges Muslims to observe the fasting month with a purpose. Kawinga highlights that the country is experiencing a lot of social ills that have to be addressed, hence the month of Ramadan should be a time to ask for God's intervention.
So our expectations as Muslims in this month of Ramadan is that we must promote unity and also promote peace in the country amid the COVID-19 and also other problems that Malawi are facing.
Both bodies have asked the Muslim community to observe COVID-19 precautionary measures when they go for prayers. During Ramadan, Muslims abstain from eating.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Define your surroundings with the color of your choice. Make it warm, creative, friendly, and vibrant. Coat textures, durable color options, with up to 1,200 color shades to choose from. Be it economy range or premium range paints, innovative paint and color technology in every drop. Available in Blantyre, Build Africa, and Limby Corner Mart Building, and in Lilongwe along M12 Road close to Gateway Mall. Tropical Paints, your world in color.
Kodi mukudziwa kuti ife alilongo water board tili ndi call center yomwe inakhazikitsidwa kuti itumikire inu makastomala athu. Ngati mwapezana ndi vuto lililonse lokhuzana ndi madzi, musachedwe, tiyimbireni pa 253 mwaulere. Kusiya kwa madzi, madandaulo okhudzana ndi mabilu, kulipira mabilu, kuphulika kwa mapayipi, kulumikiza madzi mwachinyengo, kaya kutsina khutu, musachedwe, tiyimbireni pa 253 mwaulere ndipo tidzakuthandizani mwachangu ndi mwansangala.
Welcome back. You're watching news at 8 on Times Television, DTV, Times 360 Malawi, Facebook page. Malawi Human Rights Commission has developed a policy on elimination of sexual harassment in workplaces. The development follows increased reports of sexual harassment in workplaces recently. Jameson Chauluka with the details.
The Gender Equality Act of 2013 named the Malawi Human Rights Commission as custodian of the fight against sexual harassment in workplaces. Most of the workplaces in the country do not have policies on eradication of sexual harassment, but the MHRC policy is applicable both to public and private institutions. Among others, the policy defines what constitutes sexual harassment. It also provides for reporting channels and remedies, including seeking court's intervention. Malawi Human Rights Commission recently investigated reports of sexual harassment at the public broadcaster Malawi Broadcasting Corporation. There has also been a judgment in a case involving sexual harassment at Motor Angel.
Government has warned that it will evict all people who encroached on government land which is reserved for various public infrastructure developments. Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development Kezim Sukwa made the remarks in Mangochi on Tuesday when he inspected construction of 15 police houses at Malamia Police Mobile Service Camp in the district. Johannes Simon was there and has filed this report read by Elvis Hoa.
Msukwa says government is concerned that there are some people who are deliberately constructing their houses on government land as a way of forcibly grabbing it from the authorities. The minister says government will not tolerate but evict all people who have settled on such land. Msukwa says government intends to utilize all its land in developing structures that will benefit all Malawians. Of late, there have been numerous land wrangles over this year, but the indication is that the contractor working in Mangochi will finish before schedule because some of the houses have already been roofed. In his remarks, Traditional Authority Joe reveals that about 7 hectares of land has already been secured on which police houses will be built at Malamia. Joe expresses optimism that the houses will motivate the men in uniform to work hard and secure lives and property of people in their respective duty stations.
In international news, attorneys for Derek Chauvin have been presenting their arguments defending now-fired police officer charged in the death of George Floyd. VOA's Josephine Oni has more.
He says, "I can't breathe."
Prosecutors pursuing murder and manslaughter charges against Derek Chauvin gave way for his legal team to present their case on Tuesday.
Does the state have an additional witness?
Your Honor, the state of Minnesota rests.
Thank you.
Over the more than 2 weeks of testimony featuring police body cam and surveillance footage, eyewitnesses, medical experts, and law enforcement officers, prosecutors have argued that George Floyd died because Chauvin pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. Chauvin's lawyer, disputing that argument, called to the stand Barry Broad, a retired police officer who testified that Chauvin's actions were justified due to Floyd's frantic resistance.
I felt that Officer Chauvin's interactions with Mr. Floyd were following his training, following current practices in policing, and were objectively reasonable.
However, under cross-examination, he agreed that officers should stop or lessen use of force when it becomes unreasonable.
The defendant did not alter the level of force that he was using on Mr. Floyd, did he?
No.
Even though Mr. Floyd, by this point, had become, as you put, compliant. Fair?
More compliant, yes.
The defense is arguing that drugs and underlying health issues contributed to Floyd's death and that an unruly crowd distracted the police officers. Peter Chang, a Minneapolis Park police officer who was on the scene during Floyd's arrest, testified to the nature of the crowd.
Did you notice anything in terms of the tone or tenor of the voices of those people?
They were very aggressive. Yes, aggressive towards the officers. Yeah.
Meanwhile, just miles from where the trial is taking place, another fatal shooting of a black man by a police officer has escalated tensions in a community already on edge. President Joe Biden met with Congressional Black Caucus members Tuesday.
You know, Dante Wright in Minnesota, that god-awful shooting resulting in his death, and in the midst of an ongoing trial over the killing of George Floyd. But we're in the business, all of us meeting today, to deliver some real change.
The death of Floyd, whose final moments were captured on bystander cell phone video, sparked outrage and protests denouncing police violence across the globe. Jason Samuelni, VOA News, Washington.
That's the news for now, but before we go, the headlines again. Dodma admits it approved plans for some clusters to channel funding towards allowances. President Lazarus Chakwera ratifies an African Union protocol on the rights of older persons in Africa. And the Mwabata Institute and the Civil Society Agriculture Network join forces in provision of agricultural solutions in the country. You've been with me, Wonder Msisia. You can get more on these and other stories by visiting our website www.times.mw, liking our Facebook page Times 360 Malawi, and following us on Twitter at Times 360 Malawi. Remember to wash your hands regularly, observe social and physical distance, and mask up. Please stay safe. Goodbye.